What up, everybody? Welcome to Get Your News On with Ron. We are back. I know we've had a little bit of a break. We had the holiday, and I actually had some family in town. My little cousin was here, and we went to punk rock bowling together. I took my younger cousin to punk rock bowling. You know what happens when you're over 30 and you go to a music festival? You hear the word "sir" a lot more. That's what happens. You hear the word "sir" a lot more. And I think is that your phone, Ruben? Is that you? Is that the president of show business? Tell him I'm busy. Tell him I'm on a stream. I can't talk. Tell him I'm busy. I'll take his meeting later.
Gotta love it.
And Ruben Major is my guest. I was going to bring him in. He is running for Secretary of State. And you got a nice website where you kind of lay it out what you're all about, why Secretary of State is your weapon of choice, and kind of what you want to bring to that office, which, I got to be honest with you, man, that is more rare than people realize.
Yeah.
Would you agree?
Oh, yeah. It's funny because people talk about Congress all the time and how important that is. And it is. It's a really important job. But the Secretary of State is actually in charge of the election systems in most of the states. And so, the issue is that you can really have a big impact on the way that things happen right now, instead of having to go through, a bunch of procedures and everything else, in Congress. The Secretary of State is usually an executive officer, and meaning that, when there's something that pertains to, their duties and responsibilities, that they can make an impact immediately. And that's what we need right now, especially in this, time and age.
So for everyone just tuning in, we're just at about our 30 mark here. So the show has officially begun. Ruben Major is the guest today. He is running for Secretary of State in California. So Ruben, to give you the heads up here, this is Get Your News On with Ron, the world's first viewer-curated streaming news show. What that means, I log on to the stream, and then people submit articles and submit topics, and that's what we talk about on the show. So I don't have anything pre-planned.
Cool.
The audience is my executive producer, and that's how we do it. It's kind of improv news, if you will. It's a fun concept, and we have a lot of fun with it. Somebody recently said, and I thought I got a kick out of this. I got to give this a shout out real quick. Somebody recently said, because there are some inexplicable lull times where I'm kind of digesting something and sort of thinking in my head before I speak. It's sort of inevitable when you're seeing a lot of this stuff for the first time. So what some people do when they watch the replays, they actually watch it at, they put the speed up by 0.25%. They watch it at 1.25. So It goes a little faster, which I kind of got a kick out of that. And, I understand. So
I've done that with my law school lectures.
Yeah, I'd imagine you'd have to, man. So much to get through. So let's back up a little bit, Ruben. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Give us a little bit of your background. Why do you decide to run for Secretary of State? Before we really jump into the nitty gritty, because people are going to ask you stuff related to your campaign, related to Secretary of State, and they're probably going to ask you broader things about your positions on things to kind of understand what kind of what kind of values you have and stuff like that. So kind of give us the skinny on yourself first.
Sure. I appreciate that. I also appreciate the fact that you're having me on so close to the election. We got the primary coming up here on Tuesday. So this is a big deal. And we really need progressive candidates that aren't taking corporate donations to, make a significant difference. And that's what I'm not doing, because, I don't want to be beholden to any of those corporate interests. But as far as my background's concerned, I was born relatively, in a difficult situation. My mother was a teenager when she had me. Mom and dad basically split up when I was about one. And, she said he had a drinking problem, and, so she kind of went her own way, and I went with her. And, it was tough because, we lived on the streets from time to time, and we were pretty much, everywhere. And so it was tough, but, I started, kind of as I was growing up, started seeing everybody fall off and, do things that were really bad for themselves. You know, they get into drugs, they get into alcohol, you know, violence, that kind of stuff. And I thought, you know, I don't want this kind of life. I got to do something. I got to get out of here. And, you know, I ended up moving out when I was about 14 years old. And I got a job working full time when I was in high school. And that was tough because, you know, I mean, I was working 40 hours a week. I'd literally go to work right after school. And then I would get off at like, you know, 2, 3 in the morning and then do it again. And sometimes I'd fall asleep in class. And my teachers would be like, hey, you know, this kid is lazy. What's going on? You know, what's he doing? And you know, in high school, my junior year, in fact, I got a 0.66 GPA, which is essentially like getting, you know, all D's and F's, and except for, you know, maybe one good grade. And you know, that was tough, but I ended up persevering. You know, I moved out with my wife when we were about 18 years old. And
wait, when did you get married? You got married, like between all this, you got married. You were like, "Hey, I'm working full time. High school, wasn't able to squeeze it in. Let's get married."
Right.
All right, so you gotta unpack that a little bit.
Well, yeah. So you know, my wife and I were you know, essentially high school sweethearts. But, we didn't date in high school. It was kind of the cat and mouse thing, I guess. You know, we liked each other, but neither of us really knew. And it's kind of a really cool story because one day I just kind of woke up and I was like, wow, you know, this is the person. And she, you know, kind of felt the same, and I didn't know. And I, you know, so it's a little mushy gushy, but we ended up getting together, and, you know, we moved out, got married when we were 19, and everybody said, oh, it's puppy love. It's not going to last. And I mean, look, here we are.
Was that a toast that somebody made? They were like, hey, this is puppy love, not gonna last, but thanks for the booze. You guys are great. Right. You can't even drink here.
Right. It was interesting, you know, going through all that. But hey, you know what? We made it. And you know, I couldn't have done any of it without her. I mean, she's, you know, been there working with me so hard alongside the way. I went to school, I guess. You know, Dad died in a horrific accident as an EMT. He was helping somebody on the side of the road and ended up getting ran over. And it was, you know, pretty bad, affected her a lot. And but she talked about, you know, her dad a lot and said, you know, all the things that he'd done to help people. And I was really inspired by that. And, you know, I ended up going and getting my EMT while I was in college. And you know, basically getting out there and helping people on the streets. But I fell in love with the job, you know, and I you know, ended up getting my paramedic because of it. And I just continued through college while I was working as an EMT and paramedic. And you know, I worked like while all the other guys were basically sleeping at the station in the middle of the night. I was working hard. Hitting the books, and I got my bachelor's degree. I got my, you know, master's, and you know, I ended up getting promoted. And
what's your master's in?
Military history, undergrads in history too. Yeah,
military history.
Yeah.
Okay, I never knew that was a master's degree one could obtain. So I learned something new today.
Yeah, it's like an extension of a history degree.
Okay, all right, yeah. All right. Hey, man, that's specialized. I suppose you can go teach at the Military History Academy.
Well, you know, I didn't take it because, you know, I like war. I took it because I wanted to avoid it and understand it better, and, you know, and understand where we're at in society. And you know, right now we're kind of in an interesting situation right now. You know, our government is essentially falling apart. We've got a lot of corruption. It's very similar to the Roman Empire towards the end of days.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, we can do better. We can turn it around right now. We've got an opportunity to do that. But, you know, the dirty money in politics, you know, the family dynasties that, you know, are trying to be set up, you know, at least on the as far as people passing things down to their kids without, I mean, look at this estate tax that, was just absolved. And, I think we could do a lot better to turn that around for everyone.
So why Secretary of State then? We're kind of naturally pivoting in this direction. Why
Right.
Secretary of State? I mean, at the state level, it's very much an admin job that does not sound super sexy on the surface, but you're involved with a lot of really important things in that position, huh? Why don't you kind of unpack that for folks, like why you chose this specific position?
It's funny because I didn't. I was actually running for state senate in North San Diego County. And, I was fighting for single payer healthcare right now, getting the dirty money out of politics, which is really important. And, just making a general difference in my community. But, I was also concerned about some of the things that I saw happening in the 2016 election, both in the primary and in the general. And so when I started investigating that, throughout the country, I was really kind of perplexed as to what was going on with our democracy. And it has been going on for a really long time. We've had these machines that are vulnerable to hacking, but like I say, even more concerning is that they're being ran by these big companies, and they're not doing a very good job for us. I mean, they every year, and they deliver us vulnerable systems, and nobody wants to do anything about it. And I reached out to lawmakers. I talked to them when I was out there campaigning for Senate, and they all were like, yeah, Ruben, that's a great idea, and you're right, you're absolutely correct, but that's not going to get any of us elected. And besides which, it's not really something that's in the electorate's mind right now. They want to talk about healthcare. They want to talk about all this stuff. And I just thought, what, this is the foundation of democracy. We have to concentrate on this. And I even reached out to Padilla personally, and never received a call back from him. And so I was like, what, that's it. I've got to run. I got to, do something because nobody else is doing anything. And I did. I switched over, and I decided that, this is something that we have to take care of. And I was surprised that nobody was running against, Padilla, because of the things that happened in the 2016 election. I mean, just all the problems. I was kind of confused. So, I got out there, and now I'm just, pushing, making it so that, we can have 100% paper ballots. I think we need audits at the precincts on election day with those paper ballots, and we need publicly owned open source election systems. So, these are very important because, we sign away non-disclosure agreements to these companies so that when something goes wrong, we don't even have a right to know. And that's very concerning. There was a problem in last year with California's election systems, and DHS let there. She made it so that these systems were decertified, but now they're getting reapproved over an exception to the rule loophole. People aren't happy with that, but yet it continues to happen. And somebody.
So you broke up a little bit there. So whoever walked by with the cell phone, tell them to go away. They got to go. We can't have them here. No, we missed a little bit, but yeah, we got the gist of the answer. So Alan wants to know then, going on what you just said, Alan brought up, if elected, would you further investigate the 2016 elections in California? Is that something you would further investigate?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Why?
I think we definitely had a problem with the primary. All the viewers know what those issues were. The no party preference issues, where if you were a no party preference voter, you didn't get a Democratic ballot unless you asked for it. California has this crazy thing called the ballot surrender rule. Basically means that if you get a ballot and then you go down and say, hey, I got this weird ballot. It doesn't contain any of these Democratic candidates on it. And you want a new one, well, you have to turn that old ballot in. And a lot of people, they went down to the polling stations, didn't know that, and they didn't turn that in. And so what happened was they said, oh, well, just fill out this provisional ballot. and some people didn't even show up to the polling stations because of the fact that they got a provisional ballot. Or not a provisional ballot, a ballot that didn't have the candidates they wanted to vote for in it. Very complicated procedure. You can go and take a look at the reasons and excuses. I call them excuses because it's really unacceptable. The reasons why this occurred. It almost seems intentional. And now I wouldn't say necessarily that it was intentional, but man, the fact is that when you take a look at all of the facts that line up, there are so many more simpler solutions. I mean, you basically could make it so that if someone's eligible to vote for a candidate, they show up on your ballot. This totally impacted the way that things went here in the primary. I want it to be nonpartisan. The Secretary of State really is a position where you shouldn't be out there endorsing other candidates and vying or jockeying for political positioning. And so that's what I want to do. I know that the current Secretary of State goes and makes regular endorsements, and I just think there's something wrong with that. It's been a difficult line to toe too, by the way, because everybody's so used to there being endorsements. But the fact of the matter is the person who's in charge of elections, if you want to instill confidence, shouldn't be out there politicking. So, and people overwhelmingly agree with that. I don't know. I kind of got lost, but
no. I mean, I think that's a very noble position to take, and I'm sure it's not super easy, especially right now, because I'm sure as a citizen, you have very strong views.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I'm sure you do. But you got to, if given this position, this is how you would treat it, and you would try to respect the integrity of it, and you would try to make it better, which is desperately, desperately, desperately needed. So we got some questions lining up here. Here's a light one for you. This is from Balthazar, which Balthazar, thank you for the Super Chat contribution. If you win, will it be a major win? Oh, man, and he froze. Balthazar, he hated the joke that much. No, I don't think he did, but I think he froze on us. There you are. You're back.
Yeah, you said if you win.
Oh, so this is going to be the heaviest question you have to answer. You ready for it?
Okay.
If you win, this is from Balthazar. If you win, will it be a major win?
Yeah, we'll make a major change.
All right. And what are your thoughts on return-free filing for everyone on W-2s?
The Secretary of State's office doesn't necessarily oversee that particular aspect. So I don't have a set position, but return-free filing, can you expand on that? Because I'm not familiar with that.
I mean, this is just how the question was submitting, but I'm assuming it just means you could return, do a free W-2 return. That's my assumption.
I would have to ask for clarification because I'm not really sure.
All right. Well, if I get any, I will let you know.
Okay.
Yeah, I will totally let you know. So what are the first things you would do if elected to this position?
Well, the first thing that I think, one of the things that's really concerning right now is that we've got a lawsuit that's currently pending. Two of them, in fact. The ACLU is suing the Secretary of State over. The first is over the way mail-in ballots are treated. And this is particularly concerning to me because we're here in California. We're supposed to be at the forefront of our democracy here in America and the leader when it comes to voting rights. And the fact that we lost a case to the ACLU and the Secretary of State is now appealing this decision to throw out thousands, tens of thousands of mail-in ballots is really concerning. I think we need to be looking at that more deeply. The fact is that people should be provided with due process notification when your mail-in ballot isn't going to be counted. That means that just, somebody needs to send you a letter. They need to make a phone call to you or, an email, text message, try to get to you and let you know when your ballot's not going to be counted. And right now, California is fighting against that. So if you can just imagine, why are we doing that? So the first thing that I would do is I would institute some due process there because, that's your job, right? Like it is your right to be able to get out there and vote. And whenever that right is going to be abridged or, taken away from you, you need to have some sort of a notification. And unfortunately, that's happening to a lot of people where they don't even know. And, you mail your mail-in ballot out, and, if they receive it after the election, well, you're out. It doesn't matter if, the signature doesn't match. You're done. Like, there's no appeal process. And that to me is very disturbing. Other states have a 2-week rule, where you can get the ballot in within a 2-week time frame. I think that, that's more reasonable. I think that we need to do that. I think also the same for military and overseas ballots. We're 46th in the nation when it comes to accepting those, because they only give them 3 days. 3 days. That's it. After the election for them to be received by the county registrars. And, we need to give them 2 weeks. I think, we can do a lot better. So those are a couple things I would change. The other thing, like I said, are these machines, the big companies that are running them. In some cases, for election infrastructure, we actually have foreign companies that have been contracted to use or to deliver us election systems. And nobody really likes that idea, that outsourcing technology. I think that we can run this in-house better. And we have to, because we have to have ownership of our elections. So that's what I would intend to do, is bring us back to that on the first.
We missed the last part of your answer. You cut out for a little bit there.
Oh, sure. I was just going to say that, as a Secretary of State, you can immediately decertify machines that are vulnerable to hacking. That means that they can't use them across the state.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, that's the joy and the pain of doing it live. It's really great. People have direct access to you. They can ask whatever they want. The drudgery of it is sometimes you drop a little bit. The streams are a little bit imperfect at times. So we'll backtrack a little bit here. We got some clarification from Balthazar here. So what return-free filing is, and this is my first time learning this phrase. It's a tax system in the UK where the government sends you a bill, you can annotate, send it back with the amount, and you're done. So there will be no accountants, no H&R Block, etc. And it's, according to Balthazar, a much simpler tax filing system. This is my first time hearing about this, so I'm not super fluent on it, Balthazar. But I would say if we did anything like that in the United States, it would have to be very strictly limited to W-2s. And the reason I say that, I've been self-employed pretty much my entire professional life. And my tax return is complicated to the point where I don't think the government could just know what write-offs I was or wasn't entitled to, know what supplies I did or didn't use. They wouldn't be able to just send me a bill. It wouldn't be that simple for somebody like me. For a W-2, I guess it could be. So I would say it would need to strictly be limited to W-2s in that case, just, initially hearing about this. So do you have any thoughts on that?
I think that, if we can make the tax code more simple for people to understand and, more upfront and clear, I think that's the most helpful. But, as somebody who's in charge of the election systems, business filings, I would say that there's not really much that the Secretary of State could do in that aspect. For me, what I'm concerned about, I'm a small business owner. My wife and I worked really hard. We ended up getting an EMT and paramedic recertification training program after I got out of the field working as a paramedic. So I understand small business as well. And I think, small business needs more support over these big businesses that are taking money hand over fist from people and raising, prices for everything. I think if you support small business, then, we've got another set or another group of organizations that can really prevent the corporate takeover, the big corporate takeover of America. And so one of the things that I'm proposing as the Secretary of State is to either have a gradual increase in the annual filing fees, because right now in California it's $800 a year, no matter what kind of business you are. If you're filing an LLC, for example,
right,
you get $100 a year. And just imagine what that's like if you're just starting up from the, you don't have $800 worth of startup costs that year, and I think that's bad. How is it that a mom and pop shop's got to pay $800 and Coca-Cola, Pepsi, and nothing against all of them, but
oh no, you can totally be against all of them. I understand you're running for office and you need to be diplomatic. I totally get it, but
right.
But you are in a safe space here, buddy. Now, as far as could somebody take this and use it against you later, maybe. But June 5th's coming, so they need to act really.
Probably not going to support me anyways. But the fact of the matter is that it's got to be fair across the board. You've got to have some fairness for these small businesses.
Mm-hmm. So let's get back to topics that pertain more to you. DC wants to know, how will you protect our vote from the DNC? It's a heavy question.
Well, the thing is having ran a statewide race, I can see all of the different things that have happened within the Democratic Party, and in fact, it's pretty interesting because we had we went for the Democratic Party endorsement here in California just to see what would happen, and we never thought, we never thought we'd get it, but we sure tried hard just to see, and we still have some problems with even that vote counting process. We're in the middle of an appeal that has been unanswered for a couple of months with the California Democratic Party right now. And, I mean, are we going to get an answer? I mean, at this point, it's interesting. It's almost June 5th, and we haven't gotten an answer. They could at least answer us. They could at least say, hey, your appeal is denied. But we haven't had that. I've been to these clubs that call themselves progressives clubs, and they're not. So that's disappointing.
Such as?
For the sake of their membership, I don't want to put them out there, but there's a lot of them. I think we've got to have some sort of a progressive litmus test. You got to say, like, are you...
Oh, man. All right, you're back.
Okay. Can you hear me?
So what was the litmus test? We lost you at the litmus test. What's the litmus test?
So I think you've got to say no corporate money. I think that's it, because otherwise that term's going to get co-opted and then it's going to be meaningless.
Mm-hmm.
That's already what I see happening across the state, unfortunately. I think there's a lot of good people that attend Democratic Party meetings. I think there's a lot of people that still identify themselves as Democrat that are really, really good people.
Right.
The problem is the institution is set up so that the people that are in power stay in power. The media loves the access issues, so they.
We lost him again there. All right, let's see if he comes back. Yeah, that is cool that he's pro litmus test, and I wish we could hear the rest of his answer. But we lost him there for a minute, and it looks like it might be more than a minute. Let's see here. Oh, are we getting him back? Ruben, I think
hopefully
you're back.
That'll be a.
There you go. You're back.
All right.
We lost you for a while there. Well, you know what? My litmus test, Ruben, and I got it straight from Mother Russia. My litmus test is you can't take corporate money, no corporate money, and you got to support single payer. And when I say you support single payer, I mean you for real support single payer. You don't sound like you're in a confessional booth saying you're going to support single payer when politically there can be no consequences. You actually for real support single payer. That's my litmus test. Do you think that's a fair litmus test?
So you're saying support single payer and no corporate money.
That's the barrier to entry for me. Yeah, that's the barrier to entry. No corporate money. You support single payer. You don't do those things. You ain't getting my vote.
All right, let's make it happen right now.
No, do you support single payer? Oh, seriously? Right during that question? You've got to be kidding me. Google, what's your problem? What the hell, Google? Yeah, we've lost net neutrality, and this is what's going on. But we're fine without it, right, guys? Right? We're totally fine without it. There you are.
I think we're having net neutrality issue right now.
No kidding. I was just saying that before you came back. Well, do you support single payer?
Oh, of course.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm a paramedic. I mean, I.
Oh my God, son of a bitch. And now I curse, so this is going to be demonetized.
Yeah, the connection's terrible.
Yeah, it's not going good. I think it might be. Are you on wireless or what are you on?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I'm wired in, so yeah, I think it's your end, man. What part of where are you at? Where are you at in the state?
I'm in Oceanside, which is in between Los Angeles and San Diego. It's a smaller community.
Okay, so yeah. the waves could be messing with us.
It could be. Hey, I used to surf, and ever since I started running for office, I haven't had a chance, and I'm real bummed out about that.
Mm-hmm. Well, hey, you got to take some time out for the surfing. That's something. I mean, all my friends that do it, it's so therapeutic. They say that it's important. So, some people asked your thoughts on municipal internet, so we'll go there next since we're kind of experiencing it firsthand. What are your thoughts on municipal internet?
Well, I think again, this is the same thing across the board. So that we've seen, we've got companies that will take a lot of money, and they use the profits, for their own gain, and they don't deliver a very good product. And I think that these are great alternatives for us. The problem is that unfortunately government can be wasteful too. So we have to figure out a way to where we're developing and devising projects that aren't going to waste our money. But at the same time, I think some of these things have just crossed a line, of just beyond ridiculous. And so, the municipal internet is a good idea because I think, we can take our internet back. The same thing with, publicly owned election systems. We can take, our democracy back. Why is it that it's still beyond me that we have private companies that own our election systems? Kind of odd. Same thing goes for, these private companies that are in our insurance. I mean, what has that done for us? I mean, really, has that made things better since there was a mandate that, now we have to use providers that are not doing a very good job for us. Now they have even more of a profit incentive. I think the single payer solves these problems. So I think everything ties in together really well. You're just seeing the milking of American taxpayers' money right now through private companies. That's what's happening. It's not that as a business you work hard and you make something out of yourself anymore. It's that you have some sort of a relationship, and then you're able to make a bunch of money because of that relationship.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I'm totally with you. I'm fighting the fight for municipal internet in my neighborhood of Pasadena. I've been trying to work with the city council to get the project done, and we're looking into a couple different things. And I've been using the platforms available to me. We've been doing a lot of content on it over on the Jimmy Dore Show. We've been getting emails from people all across the country that have the know-how and want to help. So hopefully I'll have something to show for this when all of it is over. But I'm still fighting that fight. But I just, for everybody watching, I did just tweet out an article. The California Senate did vote to restore net neutrality, and the net neutrality bill in California has furthered. It's got to pass the assembly next. It is a good net neutrality bill, even though, as you guys know, my stance, the permanent fix for net neutrality is municipal internet because, as Ruben said as well, and as we both summarize, that takes the internet out of corporate interest and puts it into the hands of the public. That'll solve the fight once and for all. However, the fact that this bill is moving forward is a good thing. First of all, it's a good net neutrality bill. It goes even further than the net neutrality protections we've had thus far. Second of all, you have to look at it through the lens of the ISPs, right? To know thy enemy is to understand thy enemy, or whatever that phrase is. They just want to make money. They just want to make as much money as possible. They want to price gouge at every opportunity. California is such a big customer base. It's the fifth largest, GDP in the world. It is such a big customer base that if net neutrality is preserved in California, which means it'll be preserved in New York also, it'll be preserved in other states as well. There's a lot of bills out there. If California moves forward, other states are going to move forward too. If that's preserved, all of a sudden, they have to follow net neutrality rules. They can't do much. So the reason this is good, the reason these net neutrality bills are good, one of many reasons is because it stalls all of this. It stalls the ISP's ability to act and to really gouge out net neutrality and to enforce policies and to enforce packages that would really screw over the consumer, that would screw over small content creators. It really drags, it just prohibits them from really acting on that because they don't know what legislation is going to come through that's going to prohibit them from doing that. So this is huge. This is good news. And in the meantime, while this is happening, what do we need to be doing? We need to be fighting for municipal internet. That's what we need to be doing on a nationwide scale. We need to be fighting for municipal internet. We need to get municipal internet, and we need to make sure that these ISPs will regret the day that they really challenged net neutrality because they put a nail in their coffin. They ended themselves. They made themselves obsolete, but it's up to us to make sure that happens. We're a long way from it now, but it's an obtainable feat, and we need to make sure that that happens. And the only way we can do that is for fighting for municipal internet. And Joe, please make this a separate clip. I tweeted the article. Ruben, are you still there?
Yeah. That was great.
Okay. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right, so we got a few more questions, and then we'll wrap it up here. Let's see here. Let me try to get some stuff for you. Oh, some people saying maybe Anthony Rendon is messing with us. Have you gotten any? Have you had any firsthand experience with the DCCC, and if so, how has it been?
Well, it's funny. We went to I think the Unity conference, and just to see what was going on there. I haven't had any direct contact with them as far as I know, and I don't. But again, you don't really know where attacks are coming from or where this or that is happening. And I hate to say it, but unfortunately, I'm a target because I'm a little on the outside. I mean, I'm going up against a well-entrenched incumbent, and I'm just fighting for people. And I think that the fact is that they want to maintain their power structure as much as possible, and whether it's the DCCC or it's the the state parties, the fact is that they do better when they have the same people in there. And unfortunately, I don't think it helps or bodes well for the people. And this is unfortunate because, I mean, look here in California. We've got, for example, we have all these platform items that have been approved by the party. We have all these things that people think are going to happen, and then when it comes time to vote on them, it doesn't happen. So single payer is an interesting one because everybody supported it, even within the party. And, it made you feel good because it passed in the party. But then when it actually came down to it, the bill is not passed. And I think that's a travesty. I think.
Yeah. Well, and it was hijacked. I mean, they lied to the nurses, straight up lied to them. Then they marginalized them. They told them to shut the F up and get out. And then I'm not even sure that Anthony Rendon even read the bill. There's video footage of him hinting that he hasn't even read it. He just said, "Oh, this is flawed. We can't do this." And then you look at how much money he gets from Big Pharma. It's typical wolf in sheep's clothing. And that's why these primaries are so important. And that's why people need to get out and vote. And they need to vote for people like you, Ruben, people that aren't taking corporate money and that actually want to change things. So how can people learn more about you and what can they do to help you?
Well, I would say right now, hey, look, we've got a few days left, until the election. So make some noise, check our YouTube out, check our social media out, the website. We have everything lined out there. I think we've got to remember that, there are 435 seats in Congress and 100 in the Senate. But also this position can have such a huge impact immediately on the way that our elections are working. And what I would say is, just for people to have that at least in the back of their mind, that if we can have an impact right here in California, where we have a solution that is near perfect, because it's never going to be perfect, that we can hold the rest of the states accountable for their failing election systems, their failing electoral processes, and we can set the example for the rest of the country. And if we can do that, we can change the narrative. We can change this whole thing, because I think there's two things that we really need to do that are more important than anything else. And the first thing is we've got to secure and protect our elections and their process. The second thing is that we've got to get dirty money out of politics. And I think the only way that we can really do it right now is by a citizens' initiative to do public financing of our elections. And, it just gives everybody a different route that's taken dirty money to stop doing it. And we can't let them do it in such a way in which they can just game the system and have a bunch of individual donors that are really a bunch of companies. So we need to figure out a method to where this works, to where it's grassroots, that the people actually own their democracy, and we can do that together. And I know we can do it. We're going to make it happen here in California on June 5th.
All right. What's your website? Where can people go to learn more?
It's www.rubenmajor.com, and I tell people to run with Ruben for major change.
Love it. So rubenmajor.com. He is running for Secretary of State. He does not take corporate money. He really wants to change the system. Ruben, thank you so much for doing this. Thank you for taking the questions. Thank you for bearing with us during the streaming issues. We got through it, man. We plowed through it. You had some great answers. People had some great questions. Best of luck to you. Again, guys, that website is rubenmajor.com. And this has been Get Your News On with Ron, the world's first viewer-curated streaming news show. We will be back tomorrow at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. We usually do this Tuesday through Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific Time. I know it's been a little bit different because of my road schedule and so forth, but we'll be back tomorrow at the usual time. You know the drill with me. RonPlacone.com for all the tour dates. June 20th through June 24th. Graham Elwood and I are going to be in the Southeast. Go to my website for tickets. That's June 20th through 24th. Nashville, Asheville, Huntsville, Louisville, and Atlanta. We're going to be there. Get your tickets. And if you are so able, help this show expand. Patreon.com/Ron Placone. For a pay-what-you-can level, you get all kinds of fun content and free show tickets. I love you all very much. Thank you so much for being here. Ruben, thanks for being an amazing guest. And best wishes to you. And best of luck to you. And, yeah, I hope you pull out a W, buddy.
All right. Hey, take care. We got to win this thing.
All right. Peace.